welcome to the Gapology Guys, your place for identifying and closing performance gaps in your organizations, your teams, and especially within yourselves. And tonight we have another great topic. We're going to talk about A, B, and C players and why it's important to manage them unequally. So let's go ahead and get things started with Mark Tinas. Hey Mark, how are you doing?
Good, Brian. How are you?
I'm good. I see you've got your Gap shirt on today.
Well, I found the gap finally. Yeah. Most leaders need to do the same exercise.
That's right. Yeah, in our book we talk about looking in the mirror, so I suppose you can look in your mirror and put on your Gap shirt.
Yeah. You generally know where the gap is.
Yeah, right. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of Gapology Guys, and we're excited about today. We've got a topic that is pretty interesting. It's one that during the workshops that we do is almost always brought up as kind of a key takeaway. We're going to talk about ABC players and managing unequally. So that's sort of our topic today. And it's important that we know our teams and know our players so we know how to manage them. And in Gapology, we talk about managing unequally. And so I thought this would be an interesting topic to dive into and get your perspective on, Mark.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So can I jump in?
Yeah. Why don't you walk us through what the concept is and what it's all about?
So a lot of the leaders that we coach attempt to coach and lead people equally. And they're not equal. They're unequal. And if the leader learns to lead towards the needs of the team individually, they can really make progress. And in the virtual world, where a lot of it's leadership on screens, managing equally becomes even bigger, and it can lead to huge performance gaps. So you need to manage the team unequally. When you think about, we're going to talk in a minute about splitting the team into the A group, the B group, and the C group, as we discussed in Gapology. But when you look at those different groups, they definitely need different things, and the leader needs to understand that. And it doesn't mean that you as a leader don't have a rhythm that is consistent. It's not about that. It's about when you're leading an individual or leading a team, you likely need to lead significantly unequally. And there'll be different tactics that you'll use based on the needs of the team and or the team that you lead. And basing your leadership on their needs is really key.
Yeah, it is interesting when you look at a team and you know, whether you have 1,000 people on your team or you have 10 people on your team, the more you can learn about them and their needs, the better you can provide that level of balance between direction or support, in what they need to be successful. So it's incredibly important to, first of all, I think with intent, build into your leadership rhythm methods to learn about your team.
Yeah, that's a big deal. The other thing that we found over the years with the Gapology work we've done is that often the leader needs to go spend time with the top performers to learn, not to direct, to learn and observe what they're doing to fully understand top performance. And often the leader will come away when they do that with things they can share with the whole team. You think about the things you and I rolled out over, a nationwide chain. Many of them were simply learned from the people that were at the top in performance metrics already. We didn't know what they were doing. We had to go observe and learn. So often the leader forgets that they need to slip into the learning mode rather than the, teaching, coaching mode at times in order to move the entire team forward. Because whatever those things are that are leading the A group, which we'll talk about in a minute, the top performers, to those top performing metrics can often be shared and spread. And the leader may not know them. They may not be doing that role every day. They don't understand those tactics. So anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those winning leader traits that we talk about in the book. The very first one that we talk about is eternal curiosity.
Eternal.
Yeah. Having that, I think, is so incredibly important. Curious about, first of all, your metrics, curious about the behaviors that are driving those metrics. But more importantly, even, I think, is knowing your team, being curious about them, what drives them, what motivates them, what inspires them, what makes them tick. That kind of information is just fact finding, so you can then take action based on that information.
Yeah, the other thing that seems to be overlooked quite a bit today is if you simply look at the metrics and you rank them from top to bottom and keep your set of metrics narrow, 5 and under is key. When you simply look at the metrics, you are looking at different behavior. You have to realize the behaviors are different. Figure out what the top looks like, what the bottom looks like, and it's golden. Once you've learned the difference between the top and the bottom in metrics, you can move the whole team forward. And we have seen many instances where the bottom performers become top performers when they simply know what the top performers are doing and those tactics. Mm-hmm. It becomes magic.
Right.
So you can't lead equally. It just doesn't work. It leads to mediocre results.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's sort of a temptation, maybe a misnomer out there that, I'm going to treat all my people equally. I'm going to treat them all the same. That it doesn't work. Their needs are far different. And you can break them into ABC groups, and that's sort of what we always present. But also, even within those individual groups, think about those individual needs within those groups. And like I said earlier, the more you can get to know your team members, the better you can actually lead each one individually.
Yeah, you have to understand them. And their metrics do tell you quite a bit.
Right.
So you do want to spend time really understanding the metrics and then understanding the behavior. One of the biggest things we ever did was went out and spent time with the top performers and then went and spent time with the bottom performers from a metric standpoint and simply observed the behavior. Often we would not even announce that we were coming. We would just show up and observe the behavior of the top metrics, observe the behavior of the bottom metrics, and run out of the building screaming, "Oh my God." Because we figured it out. There it was. Often there was, as you know, there was no comparison between the top and the bottom. They were doing totally different things. So once we learned that, we were able to coach the bottom and the C players and coach the top, the A in different ways. What they needed was totally different, which is managing unequally. Think about the difference between the A group and the C group in terms of what their needs are. If you manage them equally, you won't get anywhere. The A players will be disappointed in you. The C players likely won't connect with it or get it, and you go nowhere. So this is a significant topic.
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting. When you said that, I was thinking, yeah, I bet those A players are just frustrated. I bet they, are looking for another job probably. I think you run really huge risk, specifically with your A players, those top performers. If they're not getting what they need, which is going to be far different than what those C players require, you may be looking at turnover there.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go ahead and define the A, B, and C so everybody knows. Okay. You want to take it or?
Go ahead.
So if you simply take your team and split it into 3 groups, oversimplifying it, if you had 10, direct reports, the A group might be the top 3, the B group, the middle 4, and the C group, the bottom 3. And again, it's not that simple. You have to look at your team and, how many there are. In the book, we talk about the top 10%. Bottom 10% is the A and C group. And we were looking at hundreds and hundreds of leaders. So that works. But if you simply have 10 as an example, 3, 4, and 3, A, B, and C, just to get started, leads you in the right direction. So A group, top performers, achieving the metrics, likely beating the metrics that you expect. The C group, below the metrics, not achieving the metrics that you expect. And the B group, somewhere in the middle, probably right on par with the expectation, but not blowing it away like the A group might be. Does that make sense? What would you add to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's right on. And you'd have to define what works for you as far as that A, B, and C breakdown. But the key piece there is really looking at, are they delivering on your expectations or not? And use that as your metric. So when you're measuring these, where they would fall, it's more important to measure them against the expectations than it is against each other. Because if you measure it against each other, you may find that somebody that you thought was A is really still not meeting expectations, but they're just better than all the rest of the people on the team. So when you're looking at how to analyze who, falls where, look at your, specifically your metrics. So those result expectations that you have, that result component, look there. That's really your clue.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of what we found in real life scenario, but I won't share the exact numbers. Let's say that we had set an expectation of 90% on a specific metric. And in one organization that became the goal to get to 90%, the expectation to get to 90%. We quickly found that the top performers were at 92, 93. Once we found that the top performers were 92, 93, we went and observed those behaviors and fully understood that the expectation should be 93. Mm-hmm. Then we moved it to 95. Then we moved it to 97 as we learned the behaviors equal to that, and we're able to move the whole group forward. So once you set the expectation, you have to fully connect with the behaviors that equal those that are beating it. And often the leaders miss that. They spend their time with the bottom group and they don't connect with the top group that's beating the expectation. Go hang out there for a while. See what you can figure out, because often the answer is right there. So you always know what's possible by looking at your top performers and what their metrics are in comparison. And that's why the metrics need to be narrow. 3 is a great number. 5 is like a maximum. They have to be very clear on the behaviors then that equal the metric. And you can move those numbers.
Yep. So what advice would you give for, looking at these groups individually? So say we're looking at our C players. What would be some of the tips that you would give?
Yeah, so I view the C group, and again, just to back up slightly. So we're saying if you had 10, top 3 is A, middle 4 is B, bottom 3 is C. We're just oversimplifying that. You can figure that out for yourself. But the bottom 3 are missing the expectation in this scenario. So the first thing you need to understand is that being a C player is temporary. So you as a leader need to come to grips with the fact that it's temporary. You need to help this C group move up to B or A or out. You have to believe that it's temporary. You also have to believe that it's behavioral and that the behaviors are different here. And you need to come to grips with that because you own that as the leader. So the first thing I would go after with the C group is, are the expectations clear? So we expect 95 on this metric of 0 to 100. That's our expectation. That's not optional. Again, an expectation is the expectation. A goal is something you're shooting for. An expectation is something you must deliver. So does the C group know the expectation? Are they clear? Have you been clear, or are you the gap? Are they clear? It's great. Just ask them, what are the expectations? You then have to fully understand as the leader the behaviors that equal that expectation. If there's 3 key behaviors that deliver it, you have to know that, and you have to have shared that with the C group. So again, often observing the behavior of the C group, we found out everything we needed to know. We knew that the C group did not behave like the A group. They didn't appear to work for the same company. Would that be safe to say?
Right.
But also, it was pretty clear that we as leaders hadn't been clear enough. We were spread across the country, and today in a virtual world, think about it. You may not be able to see the behaviors as clearly. Understand that the metric is screaming out at you the behaviors. It's all right there. So observe the behavior. The other thing that we concluded, we were running a large retail chain. What we figured out in a finance meeting one day was that the C group was wiping out the incredible performance of the A group. It canceled it out. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we could never be more than B because we were allowing the C group to cancel the A. So again, who was the gap? We were the gap. So the C group can't exist as it is. And we have to be real clear on that. It's not a negative message, it's a positive message. We're gonna achieve, the expectation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would add that just stick with Gapology, with your C group. Make sure that you've closed the knowledge gap. Make sure you've closed the importance gap. And with the importance gap, clarity, like you were describing, that's what's key. And in most situations with organizations we've worked with, that's their big aha, is that they're just not clear. They're not clear on the expectations, and they're not clear on the priorities. Those priorities aren't well defined. So I would really lean into that. And then along with it is, really creating that culture of accountability, and closing that action gap. So I think there's a lot of different pieces there, but yeah, I agree. My number one tip overall for sure is clarity around your expectations and your priorities.
Yeah. The biggest thing I would add there is I would assume initially that the C group is your issue. You as a leader need to ensure, to your point, that the knowledge gap is closed, the importance gap is closed, the action gap is therefore closed, and that you've been incredibly clear on the expectations. So initially go into it as you're the gap and ensure that you've done everything. So writing up performance plans and all that stuff can come after you've done your part to fully close, all of the gaps. Exactly. And then, work with dates and action plans and sharing, again, what the A group is doing with that group. So again, the C group may require some additional training. They certainly require your leadership and teaching, but most importantly, they require your clarity as a leader on the expectations.
Yeah.
So for every expectation, there should be a key set of behaviors that equal that. That's golden. Once you get that can really move teams forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for those of you who follow us on YouTube, I just did 2 different videos talking about gap meetings. So conducting gap meetings with your bottom performers to learn what they're not doing and helping to course correct and all that kind of thing. And then conducting a gap meeting with your top performers, your A players, to learn what they're doing. So that gives you that information then to coach your C players. So the listeners are clear. We have had a significant number of experiences where the C group became the A group.
So what we're describing to you can work. And often, again, the C group is in the C group because we weren't clear. We didn't do everything we could do. And potentially there's C group, leaders that are there that can become A. They're hiding in the C group, but they're actually A
Mm-hmm.
when we behave properly.
Right, right. So what do you think about the B group? What would you do for those players there?
Again, they're very steady. They need less of your time than the A and the C. You as the leader need to fully understand the A and the C. They really hold it together. There's some gaps in there, and you can help them, but they often remain the B. We found more C players jump into the A maybe than the B. The B tends to be the B, but we need the B. They're driving the performance overall, and there's a gap between the A and the B. You can determine it with behaviors, but you want to fully support the B group, give them what additional support and training they need. But in general, they're very steady and they're consistent, and you need that B group.
Yeah, yeah,
they're doing good work, and they tend to be a bigger group.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they likely need less attention than the A and the C.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to perform rather in a steady, consistent manner. What have you found? Anything different than that?
Yeah. For those of you who have watched our videos on the commitment ladder, those are really your formally compliant, high, maybe a lower level, genuinely compliant. They're that core group that really just needs your coaching and support. Because if you think about, if your C group's canceling out your A group and you're left with your Bs, you don't want your Bs to be lower performing. You want to try to get them moving forward. So adding additional coaching, adding additional support to get them to grow and maybe inspire them, maybe motivate them a little bit more. Putting in place some of those pieces can definitely help.
Yeah, and the B group matters, and everything that you can share with them from the A group will give you additional insight into their capability. If you look at knowing, doing, being, which we talk about in Gapology, that given a specific competency that everyone falls into knowing, doing, and being being the highest level. The B group is the doing level. Mm-hmm. They are doing what you expect. So again, often it's driven by your expectations. So put on the Gap shirt, look in the mirror, make sure you're clear. But they're the doing group.
Yep. All right, so that brings us to the A group. These are our top performers.
Yeah, so the biggest gap here is often leaders spend more time with the C group than the A group. They assume the A group doesn't need much. The A group may actually need more. They need attention. They need recognition. They thrive on that. And they also have the keys to you moving the entire team forward. Again, observe their behavior, understand the difference between their behavior and the C group, and it's magical. They also may have, this is going to sound crazy, they may have more upside than anyone else in the B and the C. So they may be the future leaders and can move to the next level. So they need development. They need you, and they love when you spend time with them and focus on them. It comes back to the equation T times M equals P, which we talk about a lot. Talent times mindset equals performance. And this talented group has an increased mindset when you spend time with them, when you come and develop them. And so their overall performance can actually increase because of you. So don't ignore them, spend time with them, balance it out with the C group, balance it out. You gotta know, the depth of each of those, but they want your attention and they have the potential to move you forward. I have often found that the A group knows a lot more than I do about a given execution level in a given topic. And by going and observing their behaviors, I'm able to move the entire organization forward because I spent time with the A group. They were already there. It's what they do every day. So they often will know more than you as a leader. So be humble and go find out what the A group can teach you. It's often quite amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of words came to mind. Trust. They want to be trusted. So you establishing that through asking those questions, learning from them, being curious about what they're doing, that helps to establish that relationship of trust. Providing recognition, I think, is key here. Some want to have the crown and be up on stage and win the trophies, and some just want to, hey, great job, you're doing excellent, and that kind of thing. So I think that's another piece, and really just value them. You can really leverage them with some of your other team members. I will caution not to oversaddle them with menial tasks or overburdening them by having them fix your C players.
Correct.
I think those players can get burned out very, very quickly if you do that.
Well, they're working hard and they're delivering the results that we need.
Yeah.
Yeah. So be careful there, but figure out what their development needs are, and find your replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Find your replacement. When you find your replacement as a leader in your role, it helps you get promoted. It changes the result level, et cetera. So often your replacement is right there on the team, and there may be multiples of them. Find them, develop them, et cetera.
Yeah.
It works.
One last thing I wanted to just throw in here is that when you're looking at your ABC players and you're measuring them, it can tend to ebb and flow, specifically between tasks. So, they have the higher level role, and then within that role, they have all these different tasks. So they could certainly be an A player in one task because they enjoy it and maybe they're really good at it or whatever. And then another task, it might be something that maybe they struggle with, so they're not as committed to it. So in that role, they may not be an A player. So when you're looking at your team, you can look at them as a whole, but I think also taking the opportunity to look at them and measure based on specific tasks that they're being assigned.
No, it's a great point. It's a great point. That's part of managing unequally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So leaders that manage equally, we have not found great success in that group. Leaders that manage unequally and understand the differences between the A, B, and the C group and how they need to lead differently and close their own gaps, they rock.
Yep. Perfect. All right, cool. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it. Any last final thoughts?
No, I mean, this is a topic that you won't hear much about. Managing unequally is not something you're going to find a lot of books on, and it is absolutely key. And again, we don't, one thing I would share, we don't tell the group they're in the A group, the B group, or the C group.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
We don't disclose that.
Yeah.
We keep that to ourselves but it affects our leadership. It affects our behavior. It's about us. It's not about them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
And
I'm glad you brought that up.
So they never know. The A group, when you walk in the door, you shake their hand and thank them for their performance, but you don't say, hey, we've classified you as an A group player, and here's what we're going to, we don't disclose any of that. Right. It's kept behind the scenes. And, again, you have some A players hiding in the C group. Trust me. Mm-hmm. We found them. Yeah. Right, Brian?
Absolutely. Definitely. Look in the mirror.
Manage unequally.
Yep. All right. Well, if anybody has questions on this, feel free to reach out. Contact@gapology.org is our email address. Feel free to send that over. Contact@gapology.org. Otherwise, you can reach us on social media as well. But otherwise, nice job, Mark.
Nice job, Brian.
Okay. All right. We'll see y'all later. Have a
See y'all
great
soon.
week. Yep. All right. That'll do it from here. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, or if you're listening to the audio only version, subscribe there as well to get all the latest content. And for more information on all of this, head on over to our website, gapology.org. Everyone have a fantastic week. Talk to you soon.